Welcome, Haley. Um, Haley, if you're speaking, I
There
don't
we
think,
are.
yeah.
Thank you so much, Amita. Thank you so much for having us here today. My name's Dr. Haley Mellin, and we're grateful to one of the Indiaspora community members, Sanjeev Sidhu, for introducing us to MR and to this community. So we're very grateful to be the closing keynote. I'm with my colleagues Induja and Priyanka, and it's a pleasure to follow that lovely presentation from Dr. Negi and Eric. Eric is very humble, but he was the chief scientist for quite a long time with WWF, and now is chief scientist at Conservation X Labs. So today we're going to talk about conservation imperatives and why this matters. And we're going to be speaking a little bit about some of the topics that Varun spoke about in the beginning, this notion of climate realism. Um, in, in, in truth, climate realism and land conservation go well hand in hand, because land conservation, as Eric pointed out, is one of the facets for a balanced climate. And it's a very doable thing to engage with and achieve. Conservation Imperatives is a paper that was published in Frontiers Journal, and it outlines 1.2% of the Earth's terrestrial surface, about 164 million hectares, that is crucial to about 80% of known species. So if we protect that 1.2%, it will prevent most extinctions. If you'd like to learn more about this sort of mapping, you can go to the Global Safety Net. I put a QR code there, and you can click on the magenta species rarity map. That 1.2% is something we're going to be focused on in the next 5 years and getting that land conserved first. My work is largely on land conservation, and over the last 8 years, we've supported about 30 million hectares of new conservation. And so this sort of action is very doable. This is done always locally led, which means on the ground protection and species determining how they would like to conserve, where they would like to conserve, and then looking to communities from a philanthropic perspective to come in and help. And so what we're talking about today is we're going to be launching a new civilian initiative called Conserve.org that allows people globally to come forward and fund conservation imperative sites. And a lot of the work that's been done to prepare for today, which is a big deal for us as conservation biologists, has been on the ground action. So next we have a presentation by our colleague Priyanka. And Priyanka, would you like to introduce yourself? She's going to be speaking about conservation imperative sites in India and has done a lot of this research herself.
Thank you, Haley. Hello, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank Indiaspora for bringing us all together. It's truly an honor to contribute to the conservation, and thank you, Haley, for introducing the concept of conservation imperatives. Eric has already explained why India is the most important country for wildlife conservation. And to add to that, India is important because it is also among one of the top 10 countries globally that contains the maximum number of mapped conservation imperative sites. So I've joined the conservation imperatives team in identifying these sites in India. For this talk, I will focus on some of these sites identified in Himalaya, a landscape which is very close to my heart, because as someone who's grown up here and continues to work in the landscape, I've seen the beauty, fragility, and I realize the urgent need to protect them. So the Himalayas are one of the world's 36 biodiversity hotspots. They are the origin of major rivers, regulate climate, and sustain billions of lives and livelihoods. Their vast range of altitudes, temperatures, and terrain creates a mosaic of unique habitats that nurture remarkable and often rare wildlife. But their ecosystems are under pressure from overgrazing, habitat loss, unregulated tourism, climate change, and more. Working with Resolve and the India Conservation Imperatives Working Group, I focused on identifying new protected areas in Himachal, a region of immense ecological and cultural significance. While about 15% of the state's land is already protected, there's still potential to do more in its remote high altitude regions. This work is also deeply personal, and my roots are here, and working with the resolve for on-ground conservation gives me immense satisfaction. So, so I have identified, coming to the sites, I've identified these sites through extensive research and consultation with forest departments, communities, NGOs, experts at Wildlife Institute, and other NGOs. And based on that, I've identified some landscapes that can be legally protected in the states. Uh, I focused on greater and trans-Himalayan regions of Chamba, Lahaul Spiti, and Kinnaur districts in Himachal Pradesh. The identified sites either overlap with the sites that were mapped by Global Safety Net, or where that wasn't feasible, I selected areas that represent similar habitats, species, and ecosystems. Now, given the importance of involving local communities in the long-term conservation, the most viable approach identified was to propose these areas as conservation reserves under India's Wildlife Protection Act. Till now, I've identified 3 high-altitude landscapes that are ecologically significant and needs protection. These areas are depicted in the map. You can see here, Miyar is in the west, then Sarapchu in center, and Pin and Lipa Asrang Conservation Complex in the eastern part. These sites are more than just stunning landscapes, they are vital and yet currently unprotected ecosystems. Now I'll just go through these areas one by one. First is Miyar Valley, which covers a 56,200 hectare area across Pir Panjal and Zanskar ranges. So previous scientific studies have already recognized it as a high conservation value landscape due to its rich biodiversity and vital ecosystem services. It harbors medicinal plants and provides habitat for rare species like endangered Himalayan brown bear. Next, please. Uh, the next site is Sarapchu, which is a vast remote stretch in the greater Zanskar region. This uninhabited landscape forms a vital link in trans-Himalayan wildlife corridors and supports species like Himalayan wolf and Tibetan argali. With minimal seasonal human presence, it remains one of the last truly undisturbed area in Indian Himalaya. Next is the Lipa Asrang and Pin Conservation Landscape, located near the cold desert of Pin Valley National Park. If protected, it would link Pin Valley with Lipa Asrang, along with 6 other wildlife sanctuaries in the neighboring district of Kullu. So this landscape, the transboundary landscape, will help support seasonal movement and boost ecosystem resilience. And it will provide a vital habitat for wide-ranging species like snow leopards, regarding which Induja will speak more in detail. So that's all I have. Over to you, Induja. Thank you.
Thank you, Priyanka. My name is Induja, and I'm from India, but right now pursuing my environmental conservation master's from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. I'll be mostly talking about a very interesting species that I recently started learning about, and one of our explorations is also about creating protected areas for snow leopards. So snow leopards are really the most interesting species, which actually kept conservationists and biologists from studying them for a long time. Because they are charismatic and they have an elusive character, which makes it difficult to spot them, to put any radio collar on them. So, for example, a lot of biologists and researchers have reported back in the days that even after years of research in field, they have never spotted snow leopard in their whole study period. All that they could study from were the footprints and also the fecal matters. And these snow leopards are endemic to Himalayan ecosystem across India, Nepal, Bhutan, China, and Pakistan. And these are the top predators in this whole ecosystem, and they play a very crucial role in maintaining the ecological balance. And their presence also indicates good ecosystem health. And most importantly, in today's context, their presence indicates they serve as indicators for the effects of climate change on the Himalayan ecosystem, which is very, very important for us to note and take action on. And all these suggest that the importance of conserving snow leopard today, and because they also face a lot of anthropogenic threats such as habitat loss, decline in prey base, and illegal hunting, etc., and also a lot of human wildlife conflict. And so in India, before 2016, only 5% of the snow leopard habitat was studied. But today, with the technological advancements, AI technologies, we have about 80% of their habitat well studied, and which creates more scope for protection. And in a recent report from the Ministry of Environment, Forests and Climate Change, their presence of 718 individuals have been confirmed. But the current status shows that only 34% of their habitat is under legal protection, and the remaining 70% still needs protection. And as we all know, hopes and possibilities have been driving a lot of conservation efforts all over the world. Now, the conservation imperatives in India, started by Conserve, bring such a possibility with the hope that snow leopard habitat can be protected by supporting creation of protected areas and conservation reserves in the Indian Himalayas. And Priyanka just showed us some of the potential sites to protect their habitat. And India's approach to protecting the snow leopard habitat is shifting more towards community and landscape-based conservation approaches rather than exclusive protected area approaches as before. And the conservation imperatives will also focus on similar approaches by establishing local partnerships and to create a positive impact on people and the environment. I also personally believe in the power of strengthening the connections between people and the environment, and how reigniting the environmental stewardship in people is going to be a big tool to tackle the challenges faced by our planet today. And with that, I pass it on to Dr. Haley Mellin.
Thank you, Induja. I'd like to just express my thanks to this community and to say what a great treat it is to work with Induja and Priyanka on the Conservation Imperatives India Working Group. This is all being done week by week, month by month, to locate areas that can be conserved, that the national government is in favor of conserving, and that align with the most high biodiversity regions. It is being done in a very simple, direct, functional, affordable manner. And one of the fantastic parts about supporting biodiversity conservation is you're also supporting climate health, because a lot of today was talking about what do we build, how do we build better, how do we build smarter. Land conservation is very it's sort of the non-building. So essentially you're doing an invisible line around something and leaving it to be what it always has been. And just focusing on that protection of the heritage or the artifact of the landscape. Most of the conservation imperative areas are community areas, they're indigenous areas, they're First Nations areas. And so you're really looking to communities who want to conserve their landscape. So today we're launching an initiative called Conserve, which supports individuals in supporting the creation of new permanent protected areas. A permanent protected area is something like a national park, a state park, indigenous reserve, a community conserved area. A protected area always follows the land tenure on site. And so we're focusing today on Serap Chu. One of the exceptional things about land conservation is when you do it at a large scale, it's really affordable. So in the case of Serap Chu, you're looking at about $5 a hectare. And you're really working in community. You're working with many conservation partners. You're working in confluence with the national government. And you're looking at making a protected area that can be forever, that can live on after us. So really land conservation works on what we do in our families. We look at legacy. What is here after we're no longer here? So if you're interested in focusing on this, you can look at the website conserve.org. But really, it's trying to figure out the goal here, the mission here is how do we protect habitat for the biodiversity that's going to go extinct the earliest, because a lot of these species are 80 million years in evolution. And that is DNA, that's intelligence, that's wisdom that we don't want to lose. And we all need a home, like we all need habitat on which to ground ourselves. And so conservation imperatives is literally saying this. It's imperative to conserve these areas now. We all want to come together to do that. And it's very interesting because it's possible, and it's possible now. And so it's exciting. So acre by acre, hectare by hectare, we can get there as a team. I'm going to pass this to Amita for any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was so great, right from Dr. Dinnerstein right up to the end of this presentation. I learned so many things about India that even though I grew up there, I had no idea. So thank you so much for sharing. There is a question here that I'd like to ask if you guys, there are several, but I'll ask this one to start with. There are lots of wild boars roaming around Punjab as stray animals causing very severe crop damage. These were not seen before. Are these a part of wildlife conservation and habitat that may be coming down the valley floor from hilly areas? Do you guys have any knowledge about this?
Yeah, well, maybe I
Mm,
can just say, and then hand over to Priyanka, is that wild boar are a big problem in a lot of countries. For those who are based in America, we never had wild boar as a native species. They've been introduced by hunters, and they've caused tremendous ecological havoc in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and other parks because of destroying the vegetation, eating birds' eggs. They're a problem in Hawaii where they're introduced. In India, in Punjab, um, there are a lot of places where herds of wild boar will roam around, sometimes quite widely. And it is a tremendous challenge for farmers to protect their crops, particularly the rice crop, during ripening. It's one of the other applications of our technology system that we can detect species that not only threaten human lives or livestock, but can destroy crops. And so that's a whole other dimension of what we're trying to do is to make sure that we can keep wildlife away from croplands. And there's a number of different interventions to do that, but this has hit on a really important problem that if we can address that, then you win over the support of local communities because you're protecting their livelihoods. So that's a major research and conservation thrust of our group to try to really scale our technology to provide these not only early warning systems, but when we detect, say, wild boar or elephants using the AI or tigers, is to have an automated deterrent that scares them away from the croplands.
Well, thank you so much. There are several other questions. I'll just choose one for lack of time. How can other countries incorporate India's conservation strategies?
That's a fantastic question. I think all of us have answers on that, but I'm going to pass it to Priyanka because she's currently in India. Oh, thank you.
uh, yeah. So maybe becoming more tolerant towards the wildlife. Like for example, in India, we have a huge population, but still we are coexisting with these animals. We have strict rules regarding hunting, and then like similar steps we can take, like increasing the conservation areas and raising awareness, uh, and likewise, yeah. And maybe you can add.
I would just like to add a little bit to that. The idea of environmental stewardship I mentioned, and also the idea of separating humans and environment, and being able to see the coexistence would be a great step, which is another difference of being now going through learning here in the West about conservation. That's the major difference I see, and I can see how things can definitely change and bring very positive outcomes if this interconnection is valued and is actually like treated as an imperative.
Yeah, I think that brings us to the recent conversations of the non-human and more than human debates, and some countries that are incorporating non-human species rights into constitutions. I think one of the great things we see from the Indian model as a country and history is the respect for different species. And you even have locations that are sacred sites that you don't need to hire rangers for because there's such a spiritual respect for the landscape and the species that everyone works together in harmony. So I think really it's a wider ethos, right? We're talking beyond legal, beyond the law, but we're talking about an empathy and understanding and a respect for the fact we are one point in the web of life, and the web of life is interrelated, it's intra-connected, and we need it to continue to flow. And I think so one of the things we're looking at with permanent conservation, it's amazing you fund it once and there's this new designation that it's permanent. is that we really want to respect the earth that has given us life, and that earth understands its balances. That earth has its own intelligence and wisdoms, and that's something we can learn from and teach our children from. Eric, I think you had a final thought on this. I kind of noticed.
Oh, sure. Just that what we can learn from India, a great deal, obviously, but what comes to mind immediately is why conservation has been much more successful in India than other places is the political will is there, that the governments, with missteps, like any government, but there's been the commitment there to set these ambitious goals and do everything possible to achieve those. You wouldn't achieve that though without the community engagement and support. And so the efforts that like what Rashita is leading and others like her is critical. And then the financial resources to undertake some of this. So India is in a better position than a lot of other countries, but nonetheless, they've devoted those resources. They've made that political decision to put the money into conservation, which we have not seen replicated in other places. So that's a great lesson for India to teach other countries. And then finally, I would say we need to be really smart about introducing, as we've heard throughout the presentations today, on energy, clean energy, is bringing in the most disruptive, latest technologies that can be force multipliers to make the goals much more achievable. And now with new AI embedded camera alert systems, drones, all sorts of other technologies, I find that the Indian government is much more open to experimenting and deploying this to achieve these conservation goals than other countries. So there's a lot to be learned here.
Thank you so much. I think the point about respecting Earth, the planet that's keeping us all here, I think that you made, Haley. I think I'll end with that note. I do want to share. So thank you, Haley, Induja, Priyanka, Dr. Eric, and Rishita so much for this. To end this session, we have an amazing short film by award-winning filmmaker Amog Varsha. He just released this film for Earth Day, and this is the first time that they're broadcasting it to a large audience. So I'd encourage all of you to stay back for the next 5 minutes. It's a short film, and it goes perfectly well with the conservation theme that we just talked about. So thank you, everyone. I'll just play the film now.
Look out into the distance like I'm thinking, but actually there's nothing in my head at all.
A decade ago, I stood on Australia's rugged shores, gazing across the vast Indian Ocean. The same waters that shape this land nourish mine back home in the Western Ghats. And now I have the privilege of introducing two Aussies to my backyard, the High Commissioner Philip and the Consul General Hilary. Our mission to track down this forest's iconic species and uncover the secret of why Philip enjoys hiking in some of the harshest terrains on Earth.
It's a way to engage with people. There are things that you are enjoying in the environment together, but over the experience of a hike of whatever it is, you have an opportunity to really have a good engagement with people.
Just a few kilometers in, and we've already encountered the rainforest's most iconic residence, the lion-tailed macaque.
Monkeys are a bit of a problem, or at least they were a bit of a problem on our compound in Delhi. Our senior administrator had a very clever idea, a unique idea in the Australian Diplomatic Service. We have a monkey frightener. So there's this guy, sort of big guy, who can make an extraordinary anti-monkey sound. Like the biggest anti-monkey sound you can imagine. Ooh! Except 10 times that sound. Anyway, I don't know if he gets paid by the grunt Okay. Or paid by the hour, but whenever he sees me, he makes sure he makes a very big monkey noise. I don't know whether he thinks he's scaring me or whether just wants to show he's doing his work.
Deep into the rainforest, the weather begins to shift. The rain, a life-giving gift from the Indian Ocean, awakens the forest.
It's monsoon at the moment. Everything is singing. I can hear water rushing. And so I've had the opportunity to walk around, walk through the rainforest, experience what that is like. It's not something that's very easy to do in Australia. Our climate is generally very different.
The rain awakens the forest, but it comes at a price. Leeches.
There is the odd thing called leeches around, and they need to be watched out. My new thigh-high leech socks, which I actually think look pretty good, as well as keeping the leeches very much at bay.
Leeches are a small bother. This forest is home to creatures far more dangerous, and one of them is here.
I don't know how big I thought they were in my head, but this one was big.
My God, we saw a king cobra, as well as thousands of other things.
With that close call behind us, we are ready for the summit just ahead.
Hiking also has the ability to clear the mind. I don't go on hikes to think about work, but actually, when I do think about work, I have some of my better ideas. I think the mind is somehow uncluttered.
As we reach the top, the rains clear, unveiling the breathtaking majesty of the Western Ghats. And just when we thought we'd seen it all, we hear the musician of this forest sing to us. The Malabar whistling thrush.
Well, here we are in one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to in India. And the view is just opening up, so you can see the gorgeous rainforest. It's just the three of us and about 10,000 leeches. Apart from that, it's just us. I want to thank my mate Amog here for taking us to this extremely beautiful place. I suspect I'm the first Australian High Commissioner to make it here, but I don't think I'll be the last. I'll be recommending it to everyone. This last weekend, very special for me. What a super place this is.
This is a UNESCO-listed World Heritage Site. The Western Ghats are recognised internationally as somewhere where the biodiversity is so significant that it requires protection and recognition.
A rare few get to experience this part of the world, and I'm grateful to have shared this place I call home with Philip and Hilary. As we conclude our journey, we're reminded of a profound truth. Despite our differences as people and nations, we are all deeply connected in this magical home we share, Earth.
Look out into the distance like I'm thinking, but actually there's nothing in my head at all.
That's a great state to be in.
It's a boil. It's all boil in your hat.
How poetic.
Thank you everyone for joining Indiaspora's 5th Annual Climate Summit, the Western Hemisphere section. If you're up and would like to join the Eastern Hemisphere section, it's on at 9 p.m. Pacific this evening. And if not, you can watch it later as part of a recording. You can watch the live stream on our LinkedIn. Thank you all. Bye.